Welcome to the training all about food. In the Fat Life, you are going to release the need for dieting because you're going to be so in tune with your body. How we're going to do that is by hitting just 3 daily food and or food behaviors. That means like maybe you're going to have a meal replacement shake right after you exercise. Maybe you're going to have a piece of chocolate after your lunch. Maybe you are going to promise that you're going to drink a half gallon to a gallon of water a day. Just 3 things that are effective, effortless, and enjoyable. We're also going to be desensitizing your body to binge, cheat, bad foods, and you are going to eat them often. That is how we are going to desensitize you from the cravings. So that way, when you do have a craving, you honor it completely guilt free and without going overboard that sabotages your progress. You're going to eat to 80% fullness. So that means you're going to get practiced in not stuffing yourself. We're never going to let you go hungry enough to gorge. And then also, you're going to learn how to cut food out of your diet, and diet in the word as an overall eating style. You're going to know how to cut things out of your diet that will give you a fat burning effect. And this is all going to be in trainings after this, as well as coaching in our group calls. Or if you're in a private container, obviously we're going to be talking about this in Telegram and your private calls, in addition to the group calls if you choose to come to those also in that private package. The only way that you're going to adhere to the habits necessary to have a body that you really like without dieting is that we have to reduce the energetic resistance in the form of fear/inner child emotions and the protective/adaptive mindsets. So you can refer to this experience as a fear feeling and mindset, or an inner child emotion and adaptive parts. It's the same thing. It's just, however you like to look at it, I'm going to use them interchangeably because we're boss babes and we have some strategic ideas of how we want to get things done. And so sometimes inner child feels really good to like nestle into and be in that like self-love, really sweet type of a mood. And then also we could be like, no, this is a fear mindset. How am I going to correct this fear mindset? So you can use them interchangeably as we move forward in this work. So here's how we are going to reduce the energetic resistance. We're going to use food as the mirror to the fears and the inner child feelings. So fear of success, fear of failure, and or however you relate to your inner child of feelings of sadness, disappointment, blame, rejection, guilt, I'm bad, I'm not good, like all those types of things. And we're also going to be using the dieting as the mirror to the fear protective mindsets / the inner child adaptive mindsets in the form of perfectionist and achieving parts. So when we have the fear of success or the fear of failure, or we have inner child frozen emotions, we can see them in the food, how we're relating to the food and how we create a bad food list and a good food list and how we reward ourselves or punish ourselves. And then we can see the mindsets, the adaptations of these emotions in the form of our dieting, because the inner child is looking to be perfect, to make sure that she's doing things right to create that sense of connection. When we have fears, we're also going to be a high achiever and a perfectionist and want to control things to make sure that we have a guaranteed outcome. So when we can relate to the food as our feelings and we can relate to the diet mentality as the mindsets that go with it, it's really easy for us to break through the resistance, feel better, and have a mystical experience within yourself that is the spiritual fun part of all of this, that's expansive and helps us manifest and stay connected to our power and our purpose. But also it's the thing that's going to make the resistance and the sabotage get less and less and less until they're a non-issue. So what you're going to do is have a survey, and it's on the next slide. But first, before you see the survey and how you're going to find out what the energy is that we want to work on releasing the resistance of, is that we want to look at our eating style and the energetic pattern behind it. So if you're a binger, this is the cycle of abuse, because when you are feeling bad about yourself and then you eat a whole bunch of food to suppress the emotions, you can hear negative self-talk go off, right? Well, a lot of times the things that we're saying while we're binging, while we're doing the thing that we're not supposed to do, is very, very mean. And a lot of it is the things that were said to us or the emotional state of ourselves that created those words, but from way back then. Or it's learned behavior of how we saw adults interacting with each other. Because what happens with the cycle of abuse? We have this assault, and we may have a separation, and then we may have a groveling and, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm never going to do this again. And that's like the diet mentality. I'm going to start again on Monday. And then we're able to do a diet for a certain amount of time, and then the binge happens again. So it's the same thing with the cycle of abuse. So we can really see a very strong energetic pattern that is self-destructive and very harmful with the binge mentality. And then the yo-yo has a lot to do with our attachment style. So when we have the fantasy of our dream body, we're actually attached to the outcome that we think we're going to have when we look like that, right? Like your dream body fantasy isn't just about your body. You're not just looking at yourself naked in front of a mirror. You're watching your body experience the best life, the life of your dreams. And so when we have an insecure attachment style because of whatever is happening with these frozen emotions of the inner child, then we're actually going to create that style of connection with our dream body. So the yo-yo dieting to me really looks like the avoidant style, where we're going to ghost following through, especially after we get some results, or we're going to be more anxious and we're going to be like very meticulous with everything that we're doing, with tracking everything to a T, to then we're overwhelmed and then we just can't sustain it anymore. When we look at the macros, we have a MAD model and a SANE model. So if you're tracking your macros, and it is not a pleasant experience, it's stressing you out, you feel trapped by it, that's because the adaptive mindsets or the fear mindsets of needing to be right and needing to be good are on turbo. And so that's why you have that kind of behavior going on with the macros. When there's macros and it's a sane version of tracking them, we're precision-ish. So this means that you're goal-driven and you're flexible. So if you're tracking macros and it doesn't feel terrible to you, you're probably someone that when you go out to dinner or lunch or breakfast or whatever, you can kind of eyeball what you're eating. You have a sense of, okay, hey, I'm going to ask for an egg white omelet. They usually do 8 ounces. Okay, so I know what that is. I'm going to have bacon. Okay, so I know how much bacon is for the macros, so I'll plug that in. But you know what? I'm going to add a couple more grams of fat because I'm out in a restaurant and they usually cook in more oil than I would at home, blah, 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 blah. So if you have a sane relationship with macro tracking, you're tracking it accurately for the most part, but you don't freak out when you are unable to measure something. And then, of course, there's moderation. And the moderation is the overall lifestyle that you're balanced no matter what season it is. So it's like bikini season every season. And this lifestyle approach means that you're able to sense your body and what you need to alter. If you need to up the fat and reduce the carbs or vice versa, you're really able to have that connection with your body. So we are going to kind of use this as a framework after we get some information from you on the survey. So this intake form is also linked in the module of this classroom tutorial, where you'll be able to click directly to it. Or of course, you could just type into your browser bit.ly/thoughts, feelings, food. This is what the survey looks like. It's a Google intake form. It's going to create a spreadsheet for me so that it's totally organized so I can see exactly where you're at. Now, what I suggest you do is that you journal for a week. And then after you're done journaling for a week, come to this form and fill it out in summary. So it's going to collect your email, your first and last name. So I have it clear on the spreadsheet. And you're going to check off where you are in your eating style based on the slide I just went over. So if you're binging, if you're yo-yo, if you're the MAD model of macros, or you're in the sane model of macros, or if you're in moderation. For the intake questions, I'm just going to summarize them because you can clearly read them and you'll be able to read them later. When you are a binge person, you have two options. You're either going to stay with your diet, right? So if you restrict and then binge, keep dieting and journal what you are thinking and feeling, even just listening to this training or when you're looking at the Google form. And then when you feel the urge, when the urge for the binge starts to come on, see if you can slow down a little bit and then journal what's coming up for you. Even reflect on what has happened in real life that might be activating you. Sometimes it's just that internal state that is just present. It doesn't take an exterior trigger. So either way, just start to write down your thoughts and feelings when you feel the urge to binge. And then while you're binging, if it's possible, write down your thoughts and feelings while you are binging. This is going to give us so much data so that as we're working together in our container, you're really going to be able to work on these emotions and mindsets and energy so that you can stick with the habits needed for your goals. Ask yourself what your thoughts, feelings, or food reminds you of. This is a big inner child work. I feel like we have a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of an experience from these ages 0 to 3, where we were just in download phase only. Really, 0 to 7 is our download only phase, but 0 to 3 is the connection piece with the caregivers, with emotions, with attention, with the nervous system. So when we have 0 to 7 or 0 to 3 experiences where there's separation, we have a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, right? Because it's human behavior. So when you're in this experience with your binge, ask yourself, what does this remind me of? And just let a memory happen. And it could be when you're 15. And then you can reflect on that and write it down and say, what does that remind me of? And then you could have a memory come up that you were 9. And so this is how we're going to keep going, chipping away at these emotions that are stored in your body. Another way that you can do the journaling, if you're a binge person, is go to the store or go to the drive-through and buy all your binge food and sit your booty down and eat them and enjoy them and journal your thoughts and feelings. If you are a yo-yo person, you can do this 2 ways. You can stop dieting and start eating the food you usually eat when you're not on a diet. Journal the thoughts and feelings, everything that I described a little while ago. Or you can keep with your schedule, just like for the binge, keep dieting until you can no longer diet and you are in overwhelm, or you're in decision fatigue, or it's the end of the day, or it's the end of the week, or it's after a vacation when you are tired of dieting yourself, or after an event. So if you diet yourself down to an event and then you have the event, and then the next Monday after the event, maybe that happened on Saturday night, you're like, I'm exhausted. I cannot diet right now. Perfect. Keep eating the foods that you're not going to eat while you diet and journal your thoughts and feelings. And then the macros MAD, same thing. When you're tracking your macros, write down how you're thinking and feeling. When I was on my anti-inflammatory diet and I was on a reverse cut because I was like, I don't want to gain weight with my anti-inflammatory foods. I want to figure out how I can eat for my digestive health and for my aesthetic goals. And I was so frustrated with how meticulous the tracking was. And I thought, you know what? There are people all over the world that love macro tracking and do not feel trapped by it at all. Clearly, frustration is a me thing that I'm projecting onto the whole strategy of macro tracking. We're really going to be able to find what we need to know about your emotional state / your fear state so that we can bring your energy together so that you can move forward towards your dream body goals.